Hey, I hope you guys are having a good day today. We are going to look through the mini lesson and just a little recap from what we looked at today, and hopefully that will help you if you were not able to attend. Again, today we had 18 people, which I am still considering to be incredible. So this one was select the shape with an angle that is obtuse. So you're going to be looking for which one has an angle that's obtuse, that's larger than the right angle, which is 90 degrees. And we're going to look for that. And I showed the class, I feel like this was a pretty powerful visual. So if you have your 90-degree angle right here, okay, there's your 90-degree angle. Anything that is on this side that is less than that, if that were to be, an angle that looked like that or that or that or that or even that tiny one, that would be less than 90, and that would classify as acute. If you had an angle that went this way, it can be slight or it can be a lot, that would be considered obtuse. So we're looking for anything that's larger than this part that lays open. So when you look at this, what kind of angle is that? Does it look like a perfect little square in there? That's a right angle, equal to 90 degrees. And so is that, and so is that, and so is that. When you look at this little one right here, that is also going to be well, it's not also. Does that look larger or smaller than the 90 degrees? That looks smaller. It almost looks like a 45-degree angle halfway between there. That means that these would be acute angles. Those are acute. These are right angles. Now this one has no angles at all. So let's look at this one. This angle right here. So if I were to draw my right angle right there, does that extend out past it? Does it look kind of fat and spread open? It does. That means that is an obtuse angle, and this one is too. It's greater than 90 degrees. So there's two. So select the shape with an angle that is obtuse. Well, that's going to be angle or shape C, the trapezoid. But let's look at something else interesting. Right here and right here. Are those obtuse angles as well? They are not, because the right angle would look like this if it was there, and that comes kind of in a little bit. It's not quite a right angle. It's a little bit less than that. So those are going to be acute angles. All right, so let's look at the next slide. This is what the Okay, so we're looking at error analysis with this one. Josh says that the following shape only has one right angle, one set of parallel lines, and one set of perpendicular lines. Explain and correct his error. So let's see. What do you think about this? Is that less than 90? Remember, 90 degrees looks like this. It can also look like this. It can turn any way that it wants to turn. Does it look just like a 90-degree angle? Does it look like more or less? That's right. It's 90 degrees. It is a right angle. I'm going to label it with an R. What about this one? Does it look like it's 90 degrees as well? It is 90 degrees. So right here, it doesn't have one right angle. It has two. So keeping that in mind, that it does have two right angles. So he's wrong about that. One set of parallel lines. So are these lines right here, are those parallel? No. Those are not parallel. Are those perpendicular? No, they have to form a 90-degree angle. This is acute and this is obtuse. What about these lines right here? Parallel means they never touch. Never. They stay to where they will go on, but they will never touch. Are those parallel? Will they ever touch if they keep going? They will not. So it does have one set of parallel lines. Yeehaw. Because we already looked at the other ones and they're not. One set of perpendicular lines. So let's look and see if we can find some perpendicular lines. I see some right here. Okay, those make a 90-degree angle. We already saw that. We also saw that down here were 90-degree angles. So right there you can already tell it's going to be two sets of perpendicular lines. So he was not correct. This is what your classmates said during our lesson today. Two right angles, one set of perpendicular lines. Now, a lot of students were having issues. They thought, and this is powerful to talk about, that this line is just one line. So even though these ran through it, it was only one set of perpendicular lines. However, I don't think that that's true because you have another intersecting set, another intersecting line. So it's two sets of perpendicular lines. That's another set there. But that was a misconception that we had today, and I thought that was a really good thing to bring up for us. It has two right angles. It does have one set of parallel lines and no perpendicular lines. So they were not able to identify that right angle. If you have a right angle, it is perpendicular lines. It is. Because within that right angle is perpendicular lines. You have to extend those lines out to be able to see it. It has two right angles, but there is one set of parallel lines and two sets of perpendicular. That's correct. I think he is right about the right angle, but there's two right angles, not one. I do see the way it has perpendicular, and I see an acute angle. So I like how Nui said, I do see the way it has perpendicular, but she wasn't necessarily addressing if it had one or two, but she realized I at least see one. It has two right angles, one set of parallel lines, and two perpendicular. Oh, they're noticing that there was an acute angle. Of course, that wasn't part of the question, but they're noticing and wondering, so that's great. Really proud of that. Good job. So the next question was draw a shape that has one set of parallel lines and at least one right angle. One thing to note about this that was brought up during our lesson, one set of parallel lines. Some students were drawing a rectangle, which would have two sets of parallel lines. Now, if it has two sets of parallel lines, it does have one set. It's in there. And I was accepting that. Some students were arguing that it should only have one set because it says one set. So that is a good thought as well. But I did accept answers that had two sets because two sets does have one set. So this one was a really good one. It did only have one set of parallel lines. And you'll notice that if those intersect, those are not parallel. Those are intersecting lines. They're not perpendicular. Now these right here are perpendicular. So that one is a good one. And the next one, draw a shape that has one set of parallel lines and at least one right angle. That has two sets of parallel lines. If we extend those out, you can see that there's two sets. And there is at least one right angle. Indeed, there are four. Now, if we're going by, it can only have one set of parallel lines. This will not be correct. Draw a shape that has one set of parallel lines. Okay, so they deleted theirs. A trapezoid, that's the same as the one we saw before. But this is a little bit of a different trapezoid because it has the right angle in it. Draw a shape that has one set of, that didn't work out. This one I thought was really, really cool because it totally fits the rule and it's thinking outside of the box a little. So we have our 90 degrees here, so it has at least one right angle. It has two, and it does only have one set of parallel lines. I'll be honest, I was not expecting to see this one here. That's cool. And that's the only step. And you'll notice here, again, there's the 90-degree angle. There are your perpendicular lines. I really liked seeing that shape. He wasn't the only one to draw that shape either. See, there's another one. So some people are really thinking. Again, this one has our 2 sets of parallel lines. So if you are thinking that this should be definitely only one, then this one doesn't fit the rule. But it does have 1 set of parallel lines. It just has a second set as well. And these look like they're all the ones that we already covered. So class did a really good job on that. Draw 2 things that you learned. So why they were drawing this is I had to address this. I don't know what happened necessarily, but I do know that for some reason yesterday on our exit ticket, students got the line types mixed up. So about 7 students mixed up a line and a line segment. So when you have a segment of something, a segment has 2 endpoints. So a segment is almost like a section of it. And so that segment would have endpoints. It has an ending. But a line goes on forever in both directions. So that is definitely different if you have that. So this is the line and this is the line segment between the 2 endpoints. And so that was why someone wrote that that's what they learned today. And a lot of kids wrote that today. So those were probably the ones who missed those yesterday. If there's more than one right angle, there is more perpendicular lines than one. Yes, that was a good takeaway for today. There can be different angles in a shape. Absolutely. I don't know what to put. That's what someone put. A line go in the, I think it means the line keeps going even though the shape looks like it stops. So for example, when you're analyzing shapes, you can extend those lines to see what the relationship is taking place. I think that's what they meant. Right angle, parallel lines. Good. A square has 4 sets of perpendicular lines, not 2. Yeah, that was a good takeaway. It does only have 2 sets of parallel lines. I learned about how to use the perpendicular lines. I learned how to find angles and shapes. I did not learn anything. I found out who put this one, and they have a good base in geometry, so they're going to work on learning something a little more challenging. I'm sending them a link today. Trapezoid has no right angles. Now, there are different types of trapezoids, but the trapezoid that looks like this one does not have right angles. Acute, obtuse, obtuse, acute. What a ray is. Yeah, so we recovered some of that vocabulary today. And remembering that a ray has an end point and goes forever in one direction only, whereas a line goes forever in both directions, and a line segment ends on both sides. Didn't learn anything. That was another person who had a great base in geometry. So we're going to be sending out some challenging things for those students. Thank you guys so much for coming to our lesson today. The recap of it, I wish I could have seen you on Zoom. We did have a lot of students on Zoom today. If you look at our math, these were the answers from yesterday's work, so you can go back and check that. Pearson is having issues with the SAB pages loading. If you are having issues, please message me. BCS Help Desk is going to help you, but I have to send them your contact information. Make sure that you went over those Quizlet words. Those were very important for today to be able to look at what those mean and practice that. So when you go here, you're going to get to see a line goes forever in both directions, and being able to practice those and see if you know what those are. Parallel lines in the same plane that do not intersect. And you can also, don't forget, you can test yourself over here. You can learn, write, spell, and test. So once you've went over them, see if you can apply them. That's a good practice tool. It's something that you want to be using to help you. Also in math, that looks about it. The greedy triangle is a read aloud that can help you. If you have questions, don't forget to ask me. Geometry is just a lot of vocabulary that you have to keep straight. So hopefully the things we're doing are helping you with that. And I hope to see you on Zoom tomorrow. Bye, guys. Have a good day.